The sun bled across the horizon, painting the sky in hues of blood orange and bruised purple. Shadows stretched long and hungry from the looming tree line, reaching toward the unsuspecting town of Eldridge Hollow. As the last sliver of sun dipped below the horizon, a blanket of darkness descended, punctuated only by flickering gaslights. Eldridge Hollow held its breath. Night had come. In the heart of town, nestled amongst the shadows, stood Darlene Carter. Her weathered face, etched with the passage of time, held a look of grim acceptance as she watched the light fade. Her gaze was fixed on the edge of town, where the darkness seemed to gather with a life of its own, where whispering pines stood sentinel. Darlene knew the truth that many chose to ignore. When darkness fell upon Eldridge Hollow, it was the forest that claimed it. The old folks whispered tales of whispering pines, stories passed down through generations. Tales of those who dared to enter after dark, lured by curiosity or foolish bravery, only to be swallowed whole. They spoke of whispers that chilled the soul, of shadows that danced with a terrible life of their own. Darlene had heard the whispers herself, felt the icy breath of the pines against her cheek. She knew the truth behind the legends. Whispering Pines was not just a forest, it was a presence, ancient and hungry. As the townsfolk retreated indoors, seeking solace from the encroaching darkness, Darlene remained. She stood as a silent guardian, a lone sentinel against the encroaching shadows. She knew she couldn't stop the inevitable, but she could bear witness, could remember those the forest had claimed, and tonight she felt it was hungry. The air grew colder as the first whispers slipped from the forest's edge. They were faint at first, like the rustle of leaves beneath unseen feet, but grew steadily in volume, weaving together into a chorus of disembodied voices. Darlene shivered, pulling her shawl tighter around her frail shoulders. She could almost feel the darkness seeping into her bones, chilling her from the inside out. Tonight, the whispers held a new urgency, a palpable hunger that set her teeth on edge. She cast a wary glance towards the general store, where a group of teenagers huddled on the porch steps, their laughter echoing in the stillness. They were oblivious to the danger lurking just beyond the pool of light cast by the store's single lantern. To them, Whispering Pines was nothing more than a spooky legend, a challenge to be conquered. Darlene recognized the ringleader. Matty, they called him. He was a good boy, but reckless, with a head full of adventure stories and a thirst to prove himself. She had seen that look in his eyes before, the glint of daring mixed with a healthy dose of disbelief. It was a dangerous combination, one that often led to foolish risks, and tonight, it seemed, Matty was determined to tempt fate. She wanted to call out to them, to warn them of the danger that lurked within the whispering woods, but she knew it would be futile. They wouldn't listen, not with their young blood running hot and their hearts filled with the illusion of invincibility. They would have to learn their lesson the hard way, just like so many before them. And Darlene would be left to mourn their passing, to add their names to the growing list of souls claimed by the darkness. "You scared, Matty?" A girl's voice, laced with amusement, cut through the night air. Matty, leaning against the porch railing, feigned a yawn, his eyes flickering towards the tree line. He could hear the whispers now, faint but undeniable. They seemed to beckon him, whispering his name on the wind. "Nah!" he scoffed, shoving his hands deep into his pockets. "It's just a bunch of trees. Besides, what's the worst that could happen?" The group around him erupted in laughter, their bravado fueled by youthful ignorance. They were all there. Sammy, the quiet one who never backed down from a dare, Emily, the girl with mischief dancing in her eyes, and Tommy, always eager to follow Matty's lead. They were drawn to him, these friends of his, captivated by his easy charm and his thirst for adventure. "My grandma says the forest is haunted," Tommy piped up, his voice a touch too high. "Says it steals the souls of anyone foolish enough to go in after dark." Yeah, right, Tommy, Emily scoffed, rolling her eyes. And I bet your grandma believes in the boogeyman too. Their laughter was cut short as a gust of wind whipped through the town square, carrying with it a fresh wave of whispers from the pines. This time the whispers were louder, more insistent, carrying a chilling undercurrent that sent shivers down their spines. Even Matty felt a tremor of unease. "Come on," he muttered, trying to sound nonchalant. "Let's just go. This place gives me the creeps." The air grew heavy with the scent of pine needles and damp earth as they crossed the invisible boundary that separated Eldridge Hollow from whispering pines. The laughter died on their lips, replaced by an uneasy silence broken only by the crunch of leaves beneath their feet. The darkness seemed to press in on them, swallowing the moonlight and casting long, distorted shadows that danced and twisted in the periphery. "You sure about this, Matty?" Sammy whispered, his voice barely audible above the growing chorus of whispers that surrounded them. "This place feels wrong." Matty hesitated, a flicker of doubt momentarily clouding his bravado. He could feel the forest watching them, its unseen eyes boring into his back. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were being led deeper into something sinister, something ancient and malevolent. "Don't be such a wimp, Sammy," Emily hissed, nudging him forward. "We're just taking a walk in the woods. What could possibly happen?" Her words were met with a fresh wave of whispers, the voices growing louder, more insistent, as if echoing her question. The trees seemed to press closer, their branches reaching out like grasping claws, eager to ensnare them in their embrace. Matty swallowed hard, pushing down the rising tide of fear that threatened to overwhelm him. He couldn't turn back now, not with his friends watching, not with his pride at stake. He squared his shoulders, forcing a confident grin onto his face. "Come on," he said, his voice wavering slightly. "Let's see what all the fuss is about."